Hey, what is happening? What's going on, guys? Good morning, everybody. You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels, and today is Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the markets. We're going to be talking about some business news. We're going to be talking about the economy and a whole lot more, a whole lot of interesting stuff to talk about today. Been a while since I talked to you guys. We had the weekend, and then I failed to put out videos on Monday and Tuesday. I wound up catching I don't know if it was the stomach flu or what, but had a rough couple of days. My girlfriend spent the past couple of days with her head in a 5-gallon bucket puking off the couch, and I kind of had the opposite reaction. I kind of spent the past couple days in the bathroom pooping my brains out and was just feeling really, really under the weather. So feeling a little bit better today. Figure we kind of get a video out here. So apologize for missing you guys for the past couple days. A lot of stuff to catch up on today. Amazon laying off another 9,000 workers. That's kind of some of the big news of the day. Twitch, which is owned by Amazon, also laying off workers. Disney layoffs are starting this week. ESPN expected to lay off employees as well. We do have a lot of business news to cover. It looks like Amazon may be building their own web browser. Google Bard has launched in the US and the UK. The first users are going to be Pixel users, Google Pixel phone users, but you can also sign up, and we'll talk about where you guys can sign up if you want to try that out. We're going to be talking about how 92% of Zillennials, I guess that's kind of the people on the border between millennials and Gen Z, prefer to shop in-store over online, which was kind of surprising. Shopify is in talks with Amazon about adding Buy with Prime as part of the Amazon payment system, and a whole lot of other stuff to talk about. We're going to be talking about buy now, pay later, a whole lot of kind of business stories to talk about today. Also, we have the Fed announcing the rate hike, I guess, if you believe there is going to be a rate hike. I would love to see a 50 basis point rate hike. I think probably more than likely is a 25 basis point rate hike. And there is a chance there will be no rate hike today. Although, seeing as how the European Central Bank did hike rates, even though they're kind of going through the Credit Suisse meltdown right now, it looks like Powell likely will increase rates. Before we kind of really jump into today's video, shout out to the sponsor of today's video. Sponsor of today's video is a company called RulesForRebels. RulesForRebels sells mushroom growing kits. I've actually used their lion's mane kit in the past. Really awesome kit, super easy to use. It basically comes in like a box or a bag. You make a slice in the cardboard, make a slice in the plastic, spray it with a spray bottle they provide you with, and within a couple of weeks you will have lion's mane mushrooms growing out of this bag or out of this box. Lion's mane has a host of benefits. Not sure if any of you guys take like lion's mane products or anything like that. Lion's mane is believed to help protect against dementia. A lot of people find it helps relieve anxiety and depression, speeds up nervous system recovery. It has benefits for people with diabetes, reduces heart disease, reduces inflammation in the body, boosts the immune system. A whole bunch of benefits associated with lion's mane. One of my favorite things about lion's mane, it just tastes fantastic. If you guys are vegans or vegetarians, it's a great meat substitute. It's very flavorful. It's a very meaty mushroom. I haven't tried this one yet. I normally slice mine up and fry it with some Kerrygold butter, salt, pepper, and a little bit of garlic, and just kind of slice it, fry it, and eat it that way. It's delicious, but I have seen people making kind of like vegan pulled pork with lion's mane, because when you pull it apart, it does have kind of a stringy texture. But that's sponsor of today's video is RulesForRebels. They're actually selling on Amazon. They sell oyster mushroom kits, all different types of mushroom kits, but I'm a big fan of the lion's mane. They got that on Amazon for $34.99. Free shipping, free easy returns, and these mushrooms are super easy to grow and very tasty. So check them out. I'll be putting the link in the description box below. Let me get into my notes for kind of the things that we're going to be discussing in today's video. I kind of lost my place. Let's start by talking about where the markets finished up yesterday. So it's kind of crazy that I know the government stepped in and kind of said that they're willing to backstop all banks for any dollar amount, and that kind of relieved a lot of people's fears. But we are kind of in the midst of a run on banks. We're potentially going to see upwards of 200 banks collapse. We've already had Silicon Valley Bank collapse. First Republic Bank stock is down 90% on the year. We had Signature Bank, which Barney Frank is on the board. Barney Frank, who rails against banks, was partly responsible for the Signature Bank collapse. And he talks crap about other politicians who take money from banks or go to work for the finance sector after they leave politics. And Barney Frank's making $2.4 million a year on the board of Signature Bank. He also helped create a lot of the bank regulations that allowed this mess to happen right now. But we're in the midst of a banking collapse, and the Dow finished up 316 points yesterday. Makes absolutely no sense. Let's talk a little bit about markets. Yesterday, the Dow finished up 316 points. NASDAQ finished up over 2%. S&P 500 finished up 1.3%. Crypto is still up big on the week on the 7-day chart. Most coins are up on the 24-hour chart. Not really sure why, but Ripple was up 15% overnight on the 24-hour chart. Bitcoin up over 15% on the week. Bitcoin currently sitting at $28,216. And Ethereum toying with crossing over $1,800. Let's cover kind of some like digital marketing, internet business kind of news. Looks like Amazon may be building their own web browser. Obviously third-party ads have become a large part of their business. Amazon also loves collecting data on people, so a web browser would be a great place to display their ads and make more money with ad revenue. It would also be a great way for them to push their own products, and it would also be a great way for them to collect advertising data or marketing data on customers. The question is, will people use a browser that's meant to track them? I know you could argue that Google, Bing, all these search engines are meant to track people, but it's tough getting people to switch over to a new web browser. I know Brave has done a pretty good job of getting people to use the Brave browser, but still, it's a sliver of people who actually use Brave. I'm a big fan of Presearch. Presearch is a decentralized blockchain search engine that allows you to use the pre-token. I actually have a video talking about the Presearch browser. You guys can check it out on my channel. If I remember, maybe I'll link to it down below. Apparently, Presearch and Brave are both looking at instituting like AI or chatbots into their search engine, so that should be interesting to see. But no other search engines have really managed to compete with Google, so it'll be interesting to see if Amazon does wind up rolling out a search engine. Speaking of Google, Google Bard, which is Google's response to ChatGPT, Google Bard has launched in the US and UK. Right now, it's kind of in beta testing. First people to get access are going to be longtime Google Pixel users, people who have the Google phone. But you can also sign up to be waitlisted and get in early. I haven't checked yet to see if I actually have been brought into it. But if you guys want to sign up, you can go to bard.google.com. I always think it's kind of fun being one of the early people to check this one out. I was, one of the early people to check out ChatGPT, and I find a lot of use cases for it in business and getting backlinks and a whole lot of other things. This stat kind of surprised me. A study from payments.com, Pymnts.com, found that 92% of Zillennials, I assume are people who kind of fall right on that cusp between millennial and Gen Z, 92% of Zillennials prefer to shop in-store over online despite being digital natives. So despite growing up in with technology, despite being very familiar with technology, spending a lot of time online, these people actually prefer shopping in person, which is interesting. And it's especially interesting since we're seeing not only Walmart and a lot of these big box stores shutting down their brick and mortar locations, but I believe it was announced that Foot Locker is going to be shutting down something like 400 or 600 locations by 2026. So it's interesting that we have a majority, a heavy majority, 92% of Zillennials who prefer shopping in stores at a time that all these stores are going to be shutting down. Shopify is in talks with Amazon about adding Buy with Prime as a payment and fulfillment partner. Amazon and Shopify are already partnered in a lot of ways. You can use Amazon Pay on your Shopify store. You can also connect Amazon FBA as a fulfillment channel, so it wouldn't be a huge leap, but these companies are kind of competitors, so it'll be interesting to see if that happens. I recently read an interesting study about Buy Now, Pay Later. Obviously, Buy Now, Pay Later has come under a lot of criticism for being an unregulated and predatory lending channel that preys on low-income people. And, maybe we should have finance companies sticking to finance. It seems like even the banks struggle to kind of manage risk, as we've seen recently. But one of the largest Buy Now, Pay Later companies out there, Affirm, recently had an embarrassing moment. They had to go around asking their clients for permission to raise interest rates because the initial agreement they had with their clients didn't include an automatic mechanism for dealing with Fed interest rate hikes. There is not a regulated lender on the planet who would have ever made this mistake. And how embarrassing is that to say, oh, sorry, we haven't charged you enough. Do you give us permission to charge you more interest? I'd say, fuck off. No, no, you should have written that into the original contract. And speaking of rate hikes, it looks like we're going to be getting a 25 basis point rate hike from Jerome Powell and the Fed today. There is a chance of a 50 basis point rate hike, and there is a chance of no rate hike at all. But what's her name? LaGuardia. Is it Kathleen LaGuardia? The head of the European Central Bank recently raised rates 50 basis points, even as the Credit Suisse bank situation was kind of going on. So I would say it's pretty safe to say we're going to get a 25 basis point rate hike. And the Fed's balance sheet has recently grown $300 billion. Just a few weeks ago, we were being told banks were sound, the consumer is strong, the economy is resilient. In an economy that's resilient, when you have strong banks, you have to pump $300 billion into the banking system to stop a banking collapse. No, it seems like time and time again, everything that we're told by the White House, the Fed, the government, inflation is transitory. We could go through a number of other things we've been told that turned out to be untrue. I don't think people have much confidence in the Fed, the government, the Treasury, any of them. We're kind of being pitched a lot of stuff as if it's good news, but there's not a whole lot of good news out there, which is odd that markets are going up. We're seeing a lot of articles talking about how home sales have spiked. Home sales have actually dropped for the first time in 10 years. We're also being told that, First Republic Bank stock surges 30% overnight. Well, it's still down 90% on the year, and it's still down over 47% in the last 48 hours. But we're kind of seeing the media put out these messages as if the economy is strong, there's good things happening, and that's just not the case. We kind of touched on the Foot Locker thing. Foot Locker is going to be closing 400 mall locations by 2026. That's over 30% of their stores are going to be closing. And again, it's odd that 92% of Zillennials prefer to shop in store. We're seeing Walmart's close. I think all the Walmarts are leaving, Portland or Seattle. Foot Locker closing all their mall locations, although obviously malls are dying. We have a Wall Street Journal article. I thought this one was kind of interesting. The article was titled, "Job Listings Abound, but Many Are Fake." And they did a recent interview or survey of 1,000 different HR departments and hiring managers. And they found that, what percentage was it? I believe it, I don't have this in my notes, but I believe it was over 50% of HR departments and hiring managers had said that they put up job listings for jobs that they have no intention of hiring for, just to make it look like the company is growing. And I think it was up to like 60 or 70% that reported that they do so with no intention of hiring people, but just on the off chance that there's like a once-in-a-lifetime potential employee they want to hire, they may hire them. And they also want to keep kind of a Rolodex of potential resumes should somebody be fired or leave the company. But a lot of people say, I see plenty of job listings, there's jobs out there. And you see other people who are reporting that, I've been looking for a job. There's no good, there's no jobs out there. At least there's no good jobs out there. We've been talking for months about how we're getting hundreds and hundreds of thousands of low-paying part-time service sector jobs, restaurant jobs, barista jobs, bartending jobs, at the same time that full-time employment, full-time jobs, actual careers, actual high-paying jobs, these are actually shrinking. But it's incredibly frustrating for job seekers who are running around and applying for jobs. And applying for jobs is a huge pain in the ass. Even if you have a resume, they want you to manually fill out their form with all your details. They want cover letters, and people go through all the trouble of applying to these jobs for half of these jobs to not even exist. I thought this was kind of interesting. Indonesia says it must shield itself from geopolitical disruptions, citing sanctions on Russia. Obviously, when the U.S. decides to weaponize the financial system against countries, other countries get worried. Today it's being used against Russia, but tomorrow it might be used against me. So Indonesia is actually getting rid of Visa and MasterCard. They've rolled out a domestic government credit card called KKP. And I'm not sure how this affects travelers. Like if you were to go on a business trip or go on a vacation to Indonesia, does that mean that you can't use Visa or MasterCard, or does their KKP system work with that? But we're kind of seeing the implications of we want to start a war with Russia and then impose sanctions on Russia and other countries who aren't necessarily enemies of ours. It's in the back of their head. What if the U.S. gets mad at us someday and decides to try to cripple us financially? We'll just get off their systems preemptively. We're starting to see the whole Occupy Wall Street movement, or the anger at the 1% kind of come back. And we've kind of talked about this before. Back around 2010, was it 2010, 2011, there was a big movement where people of all races, religions, creeds, colors kind of realized that we're not enemies of each other. We're kind of enemies of the 1%. who kind of exploits us and makes money off of us. And there was kind of this big movement where everybody came together and was kind of mad at the big banks and the elite and the 1%. And what wound up happening after that, we wound up kind of with this, there was a huge, you can actually see charts and graphs of this. I mean, the amount of divisive news articles about race, black on Asian crime, Asian on black racism, whites hate blacks, black hates whites, let's divide gay and straight people, let's divide trans and non-trans people. You started seeing a huge uptick in like identity politics and the media trying to divide people, and that kind of took the focus off the 1%. It was no longer the big banks are the enemy or Amazon's the enemy. It was, my neighbor who's trans is the enemy, or my neighbor who's trans son wants to play girls volleyball, he's the enemy. They've really done a great job of dividing us. And one story that's been in the news and made national headlines recently that just kind of highlights this is one of the biggest news stories of the past day or two is Wyoming banning trans athletes from participating in school sports in a gender besides the one they were assigned at birth. Now, Wyoming is a pretty small state. The number of trans people in society is a minuscule number. And of that small number of people in Wyoming, and an even smaller number of people in Wyoming who are trans, and an even smaller number, even smaller percentage of people in Wyoming who are trans and want to participate in high school sports in a gender different than the one they were assigned. This is a very, very minuscule number, but it's become one of the biggest headlines of the past 24, 48 hours. Now, how crazy is that, especially with all the bigger, more important issues going on in the world? Moving on to the next story, I think this one came from The Hedge. Auto loan denials hit a 6-year high as distress cycle shifts into gear. A new Federal Reserve Bank of New York survey shows the auto loan denial rate rose to 9.1%, a 6-year high in February, and is up from 5.8% in October. So what does that tell us? Credit is tightening. All types of credit is tightening, from getting mortgages to getting auto loans, and even business lines of credit, which could wind up slowing down the economy. A lot of companies need to get a loan to manufacture their product or buy inventory. Home builders need to get loans to be able to buy land and buy materials to build homes that they can later sell and then pay back these loans. But interest rates are higher, and credit is tightening up as well. So that in and of itself could wind up causing a recession if we aren't already in one. I thought this was kind of interesting. Meta, aka Facebook, rolled out blue ticks across their website. It's $11.99 a month for web and $14.99 a month for mobile. I've kind of talked about how I think Elon Musk is kind of unfairly attacked by the press and mainstream media. Remember what everybody was like ranting about? Oh, I would never pay Elon Musk for a blue check mark. This is the stupidest idea ever. Nobody wants to pay to use social media. Nobody wants to pay for a blue dot that gives them prestige. Everybody said Elon Musk was an idiot for doing this. And then look, we have Meta, aka Facebook, doing the very same thing and charging even more money for arguably less perks and benefits. So looks like Elon Musk wasn't such an idiot. Now, I'm not even an Elon Musk fanboy. I don't necessarily even like him that much, but I do think it's kind of unfair how the media is picking on him. Let's talk about layoffs. I'm surprised I haven't mentioned this one yet. This is kind of the highlight story of the day. Amazon recently laid off another 9,000 employees. Amazon owns Twitch, so I believe Twitch is also laying off. I want to say it's about 400 employees. Disney layoffs start this week. ESPN is going to be laying off employees, and we have a number of other layoffs in kind of the tech/digital marketing segment. Klaviyo, one of the biggest email marketing system software platforms out there, recently laid off 10% of their workforce. That's 140 staff. Klaviyo is based out of Boston. I actually use Klaviyo for all my email marketing. And they used to put on a conference every year, but they stopped it during the beer cough and have never brought it back. They seem to be one of these companies who are overly cautious about the Mexican beer cough. Another company called Fetch Rewards laid off 10% of their workforce. That's 100 employees. They were partially impacted by that SVB, the Silicon Valley Bank situation. A company called Anchorage Digital laid off 20% of their employees, 20% of their staff. That's 75 employees. They cited macroeconomic headwinds, and they had previously, just fairly recently, raised $350 million and were valued at over $3 billion. And even they're doing layoffs. And again, I mentioned this one, but Twitch laid off 400 of their total 13,600 employees. We had kind of touched on buy now, pay later earlier and kind of told the story about how a firm failed to put something into their contract with their customers where they could raise interest rates. And I had mentioned how a lot of people think buy now, pay later is somewhat predatory. You know, a lot of young people, a lot of millennials, or I should say a lot of Gen Z really like buy now, pay later. But here's some stats about the typical buy now, pay later customer, and this might shed some light on why some people say buy now, pay later is predatory. So people who use buy now, pay later are more likely to use credit cards and payday loans. People who use buy now, pay later are more likely to have signs of financial stress, i.e. revolving credit card balances, indebtedness, and delinquencies. And 18% of buy now, pay later customers had at least one reported delinquency. On average, they had credit scores in the subprime range of 580 to 669. So that's kind of the talk about buy now, pay later for today. And then last story of the day, I haven't really been keeping up with this, but I saw there were rumors swirling that Donald Trump was going to be arrested yesterday. I believe it was something to do with that Stormy Daniels situation and the payoff. And I saw in New York City yesterday, I think they had 700 police officers and were erecting like steel barricades, I guess planning for riots or something like that if Trump is arrested. I never really wound up hearing anything about that, so as far as I know, he wasn't arrested. I mean, I do think politicians should be held to task and should have to follow laws like the rest of us, but again, it seems like kind of a witch hunt and kind of crazy that we're spending so much time and energy, going after Trump for paying off a porn star to silence her about getting a blowjob, when there's so much other kind of more important stuff going on in the world. And why, again, I'm not a fan of Trump, but why pick on Trump? Like, why wasn't, Hunter Biden, arrested for sleeping with kids or having CP on his laptop or getting $3 million wires from the Chinese Communist Party and kicking it up to his fight? If we're going to start going after politicians, why hasn't George Bush been arrested for war crimes and murdering tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of women and children in the Middle East? Like, why are we going after Trump for getting a blowjob when there's so many other politicians that we should be going after? Not to mention, politicians tied up in the Jeffrey Epstein case, Bill Gates. Like, if we're going to go after Trump, let's bring them all down. Personally, I'm not that concerned about somebody paying off a porn star to be quiet about giving him a blowjob or whatever that was about. But anyhow, guys, I'm kind of off on a tangent at this point. I'm only at 50% today, so cut me some slack today. Again, shout out to the sponsor of today's video, RulesForRebels. You can check out their lion's mane mushroom growing kits, as well as their oyster mushroom growing kits and all their mushroom growing kits on Amazon. Link in the description box below. As always, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts, comments, and opinions on everything we've discussed in today's video, so drop those down below as well. If you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below and ring the bell. That's all I got for you guys today. I'll catch you on tomorrow's video. Peace. I'm out.